How many of you have seen the movie The Pelican Brief? I watched it when it came out back in the early 90s. It's a fantastic movie. The movie is about a law student who composed a what-if thesis using correlating data she gathered to support a rather over-the-top conspiracy theory. However, it wasn't over the top. It was right on the mark. And our government pulled out all the stops to ensure that the writer, Darby Shaw, played by Julia Roberts, and the paper never saw the light of day. I believe a similar plot is playing out today within our judicial system, not in the sense that we're having Supreme Court justices knocked off, no. Instead, Democrat politicians appear to be tired of engaging in politics and are now using the court to move their agendas forward. And corrupt DAs, judges, and non-elected bureaucrats are all too happy to oblige. In this episode of Office of the Patriot, I go into the weaponization of the courts by the Democrat Party to remove the Republican frontrunner Donald Trump for the nomination of President of the United States, and also install case law that will make it almost impossible for a conservative to ever hold office again. Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left and rhino right. If you are a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. If you are a returning viewer, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future presentations. And if you are a first-time visitor to my channel, well, congratulations on finding it. It's usually hidden very well by the YouTube algorithm. However, I do hope you find the content worth coming back for. My name is Myron Ybarra, and I am your host. When you are at war, the goal is to win. A sound strategy is to attack the enemy from as many fronts as you can. If you can make the attacks different by varying the intensity and type of attacks, then that also keeps your enemy off balance because they never know how, when, or where the next attack will begin and how to properly defend against it. This has been the strategy of the Democrat Party as it relates to Donald Trump and conservative Americans. Yes, that means you. Make no mistake, conservative Americans are the target. Like Trump says, they're actually coming after you. I'm just in the way. And he isn't lying. Right now, the Democrat Party is spending a hell of a lot of energy and effort into using our judicial system to bypass the political system. Don't get me wrong, they will still employ mechanisms to cheat in the 2024 general election if and when Donald Trump is a Republican nominee. However, Democrats would rather not have to deal with the chance of getting caught cheating in the next presidential election if they can help it. So, their preemptive attack is to use the courts to bankrupt, exclude, or jail Donald Trump and any conservative candidate the swamp can't corrupt. To the Democrat overlords, a rhino politician is just as important as a Democrat one. So let's look at the mechanisms the Democrat Party has been employing to upend the democratic process of our elections and to disenfranchise conservative Americans. They are in the following cases, which can be found in the CNN link below. Yeah, I know, it's CNN. You just have to get past their crazy, unhinged derangement and just use the factual information that they present. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've likely heard about the outcome of the Supreme Court ruling in the Trump v. Anderson case. This case is the result of the Colorado Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, unilaterally deciding that Donald Trump was not eligible to be placed on the Colorado primary ballot based on the allegations of encouraging the J6 insurrection. You know, that deadly insurrection that almost upended our country.
They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system.
Of course, the Supreme Court, in a landmark 9-0 ruling, found in favor of Donald Trump and ordered Colorado to reinstate Trump on the ballot. And because other Democrat-controlled states followed Colorado's idiotic example, they too are prohibited from excluding Donald Trump from their primary ballots. This isn't going to stop the unhinged Democrats, though. They are now working from the position that since Donald Trump was impeached for starting an insurrection, Congress can use that impeachment to prohibit him from running in the general election. I don't believe that they have a leg to stand on because it requires both houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, to impeach, and the Senate heard the insurrection case and did not find good cause for the impeachment. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court did not address the allegations of insurrection in its findings, which leaves the door wide open for more indictments or future congressional action later on down the line. That is, unless the case that Trump conspired to overturn the 2020 election results are dismissed. In this case, Trump argues that his position as the president makes him immune to prosecution irrespective of the outcome of the decision, and that immunity continues after his term as president. This case will be argued during the third week of April of this year, according to the Supreme Court calendar. I happen to agree with Trump's position that decisions a president makes should not be Monday morning quarterbacked, regardless of the outcome of the decision, unless the action or decision was illegal. Now, to the case that I believe has absolutely no merit whatsoever, the classified document case. Trump was indicted by a federal grand jury back in June of 2023, over 2 years after leaving office, for keeping classified national defense documents after he left office. I spoke to this case in one of my recent episodes where Donald Trump is accused of failing to return classified documents to the National Archives in a timely manner. There are two issues here. First, every single presidential and congressional administration since the 80s has mishandled and retained classified documents according to the National Archives. In this case, you have Donald Trump, who has been charged with doing the exact same thing that his predecessors did. Hell, even bumbling Joe Biden was found in possession of classified documents that he wasn't even allowed to have, and he hasn't been charged with any crime. Next, the National Archives does not usually maintain classified documents. In fact, they wouldn't know that a document is classified short of seeing the classification stamped on the document itself, like top secret, secret, and confidential. This is because in order for them to get possession of a classified document, it would have to be declassified by the originating agency or the President of the United States. And at the time, that would have been Donald Trump. Classified material that is discovered after it's been archived gets removed from the archive and processed through Information Security Oversight Office, which is connected to the National Archive. However, it is a separate office. This office returns it to the originating agency for review and storage, or to be declassified and sent back to the National Archive. And finally, we get to the non-criminal prong of the Democrat attack on Donald Trump, which is the civil suit brought about by the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, and the unhinged leftist judge, Arthur Engoron. Their goal was to remove Trump's ability to self-fund his presidential campaign by stealing all of his liquid assets. Money makes the world go round, and by that same metric, a presidential campaign. Trump was fined $354 million, and if you add in interest, that total jumps to over $450 million. Don't mind the fact that Trump's total calculated worth right around now is about $2.6 billion. So, in one fell swoop, the state of New York stole almost 20% of Trump's money. Yes, they stole it. They stole it through the use of an obscure law that has never been used in any prosecution until this ruling. Even though there was no complaint, no one suffered any loss, and there was no victim. This is the epitome of public order crime, and you've heard me talk about public order crime in my previous episodes, and my position on public order crime hasn't changed. Public order crime has only a very limited place in a free society because it works by the presumption of a moral standard, and morals change with time. And in this case, it's unfairly applied. So you're probably asking yourself, how does Donald Trump's legal troubles make conservative Americans targets? Well, it's actually pretty simple. The Democrat Party as a whole has adopted socialist and communist ideals. These ideals require the cooperation of the population, and if not cooperation, control. It's pretty easy to see the powers that be within the judicial system and the federal law enforcement arm want to neuter or remove someone as influential and known as Donald Trump, do the same to an American citizen with less status, less influence, won't even have them breaking a sweat. This is the real reason we need Donald Trump to become the 47th president of the United States. Because I believe that he's the only candidate that has the wherewithal, or if you prefer, the balls, to clean out the swamp and return the power of our government back into the hands of Americans. This concludes today's presentation of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed the content, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share my channel on your social media. It is appreciated. Also, please take the time to comment. Engagement is the major metric YouTube employs in their search algorithms. The more people that like and comment on my channel, the more my channel comes up when social and political content like mine is searched for. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.